Yeah, I'm going to talk about video. I'm going to keep it within the context of hospitality and tourism, obviously. We've done quite a lot of stuff around the southwest with a number of different tourism businesses. We supported the Tourism Awards a while back ago, that kind of thing. And there's some interesting things around sort of shoulder seasons and social media and stuff, which we'll touch on today. So a while ago, mostly when you talk about video to people, they start to kind of shrink back a little bit from you, and they start to say, well, first of all, it sounds complicated, and second of all, it sounds expensive. And that is true to an extent, although things are shifting a little bit now. And we've moved on really from, if you go back 20 years ago, where the only place you could have visual media of yourself was television or the cinema, that back then, you know, it was 40 grand to shoot a video and another 40 grand to buy the ad spot on the television, and it was just completely out of the reach for most small companies. That shifted then obviously as the internet came along, but the approach didn't really shift. The way that people still saw it was the same. So okay, maybe now you can get a video for 5 grand instead of 50 grand, but they still looked at it as, let's put all of our eggs in one basket and just make one video, and then that'll be that. And that was still true maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago. The advent of social media has now shifted that again, and it's moved again, and this happens all the time, as we know, sort of technology and digital stuff. But now really there's a call and there's a need for companies to produce constant video and constant media and constant assets to engage their audience. So the trick with that is, obviously, if video is expensive and you need to produce it regularly, what do you do? So we'll look at that a little bit as we go through this. So this is a couple of stats just to kind of kick us off with. 80% of all people would prefer to learn about a product or a service with a video rather than text. We know that's true because if we look at our own activity online, it's just so much easier to watch a 2 or 3 minute video than to wade through pages and pages of website stuff. What's interesting about that is that as you build an asset library, it might seem like a steep investment to start with, but a lot of that video content has got shelf life and it stays with you for a while. So if you can, do a bit this year and a bit next year and a bit the year after, you can start to populate your site, and you can use video in lots of different ways. So you could have what we normally call an FAQ, or sort of things that customers are looking to find out. You could use that. That would then populate the site, and then over time you've got all of that done in short videos rather than a big block of text. And then, actually, let's go forward to this one quickly. This is a really interesting thing that comes from a Google report from last year. So every now and then they do a specific tourism report looking at how travellers and tourists operate online. So if you haven't seen that, go and dig it out. It's quite a useful and interesting report to look at. And they identify this. So they say after price, the ability to compare all options in one place was the most important element for travellers when shopping for the best deal. So what they're talking about there is 2 different things. One obviously is price, and then the other is essentially the kind of booking.com type place where we're now looking to review everything in one place and understand what's what. And so that kind of leads into 2 different things. The way I see it, it looks at 2 different things. So let's look at price first then. So price is price. Everyone shops on price, but not everyone shops, we all shop on value as well. So, people will be prepared to pay more if they think the experience is worth it. Not everyone is buying the cheapest possible hotel. When I come and travel and stay in a place like this, I'm not just going for rock bottom, I'm kind of going for a bit of comfort. I had a swim this morning when I got up because there was a pool in my swimming pool. So there's little things like that that you kind of sometimes pay a bit more for. And in order to compete on price, you need to differentiate, you need to have those extra little bits. And then to stand out on booking sites, or at least to be front of mind constantly, so that when people are making those decisions on booking sites, you need to be front of mind. So you might be on a booking site, you might not be on a booking site. If you're front of mind, if someone's thinking you're putting you into the mix, when they're making their decisions, then you're in a more powerful position, you're in a better position at that state. So those are the 2 challenges, differentiation and front of mind. And my thinking is that video is very, very effective on both of those fronts. Because if you are differentiating, you need to tell people that you're doing it. There's no point in having all these nice little things, these high teas that you do and the swimming pool and all that kind of stuff if nobody knows about it. So letting your customers know what you're doing is really important, and doing it through visual media works very well. And then staying front of mind is kind of going back to what I was talking about at the beginning about using content in a way to engage audiences through social media. And unfortunately, because of the kind of competition that we have online, because it's actually more, your local competition is obviously just, you know them pretty well, it's a place down there and a place over there. As soon as you step onto online, the competition is almost infinite. Okay, so somebody might want to go on a break in the UK, but it could be anywhere in the UK, and they're able to check all of that up front. So finding a way to stay front of mind and to produce constantly sort of assets that people are going to engage with is a challenge, and then but it is also necessary. You've got to have that content on your social media channels, because if you've got nothing going up on those channels, nobody's paying any attention to you. They just forget, and then they'll make a decision and go somewhere else. So that's just reiterating what I was saying just a second ago. Your customers are researching you. They are researching your competitors online. You need to compete. You need to beat your competitors in these early stages. You need to be there constantly in those early stages. So what I want to show you is in a minute I'm going to talk about funnels. We all like a good marketing funnel. But I just want to talk about, I want to show you a couple of examples first, which will give you a frame for like how we're going to fit that in. So the first piece is what we call a hero piece of content. So that's something where you've maybe invested a fair bit of your budget, and it's high end and it's got some shelf life. It can sit on the front page of your website. It can do the work that the advert might have done that we were talking about back at the beginning of this. And then following that, we've got another piece which is much shorter, much more to do with social media. We actually shot that at the same time that we shot this. So if you're clever with what you're producing, you can generate a bunch of content in one go, and then you can use that in lots of different ways and break it up into small chunks and use it so that you're doing that thing that we were just talking about where you're drip feeding content through a month or through several months. You can also do what's called repurposing video content, because video is a very rich format. It's got audio in it, it's got sound in it, it's got pictures in it. You can break it apart into chunks as well. So you can transcribe interviews, for example. If you've got a video testimonial, you can transcribe them very quickly and easily so that you can put them in text on your site, or you could put them elsewhere on your site, or send them out in print. You could make up infographics out of the video content. Once you've done the research and the planning for the video, you can break it into lots of different ways and use it in different ways. So this is what we call the hero piece, and then we'll look at the social media edit afterwards.
Lying awake outside, watch the stars roll by, and I wonder if they are watching me, and here am I.
Okay, so that's the kind of minute and a half long sort of hero piece. What you might or might not have noticed in that is that we had a bunch of different characters and that they were all slightly different kind of demographics. So we had a single sort of middle-aged woman, we had a young couple, and then we had a family. So what that enables us to do with this piece then is to now carve it into 3 different sections and then re-edit those little bits so that when you do targeted advertising on social media, you can say, right, we're targeting families today, let's put this little cut with the family together, and then that's speaking exactly to those people. Let's do one for middle-aged women on a sort of just a spa break or something like that. And you can break it up into lots of different things. So that's one way of kind of repurposing it and being kind of useful with getting more out of it than you initially have. And then what we also did when we were there is just very quickly run around with the camera and do kind of quick interior shots of the properties. So this is really quick. If you've got a camera crew on site already, you can shoot something like this in about 15 or 20 minutes and edit it in another hour or 2. So, and that's just more content that you can generate out of a video shoot that you can use across the site. You could put this on the specific pages for that lodge, for example, or for the spa. You can do them for the restaurant. You can do them all sorts of different things. And they're very quick, as you can see. That's just 30 seconds or so. And it's in square format as well, which suits social media better. So that's a pretty easy thing just to kind of to change up. This is a very quick example. I won't play all of this, but this is a bit more of a behind the scenes sort of thing. So this is maybe a bit more people focused. This goes back to what Dan was saying earlier about wanting to know the story behind where you're going. So this pub, there's this whole thing where they do from the field to the plate, where we tracked, you know, a calf being raised and then taken locally to the abattoir and then turned into lots of different dishes. So it's much more fly on the wall, it's much more documentary. To be honest, it's the kind of thing you could almost shoot yourself if you just had a mobile phone and you just kind of, you know, had a microphone plugged into it. You could do that kind of thing fairly quickly and easily. And then really quickly, this is one where we basically kind of just took a bit of text. This isn't to do with tourism, but it's about just taking a little bit of text and putting it over some existing footage so that you can run out something really quick and really timely. So if you're just doing like a champagne break for the weekend or something like that, and you just want to just knock out a bit of video, which is going to have some good reach on social media, you can take a couple of existing clips from maybe your original footage. You can just pop a little bit of, I mean, we've all seen these kind of things on social media. They're pretty easy to make up. You can actually make them up in little applications like Powtoon and Animoto and Promo. There's lots of online tools for doing it now. And it's literally just a little bit of text over the top that then allows you to do a quick kind of video, okay? So just coming now back around to the funnel that I mentioned before, now you can start to see different types of content. You can start to see a little bit where they fit within this kind of strategy. So at this top end here, where we've got kind of awareness, you might have the paid ads. So that's the hero content that we just talked about. That's your kind of outreach stuff for you know, creating a bit of an impact and getting some eyes on what you do. And then you could also have tested social media videos. So I'll come back to what that means in a second. So in the middle section here, what you could have is, I mean, you could have some of the social media content that we've just been talking about that you could get a production company to make. You could also have a whole bunch of little clips that your staff are doing, little behind the scenes things, somebody just down on the beach, like filming the storm, or a few surfers or something like that. Some of that, if you get into the habit of doing that and you do it regularly, some of it will strike a nerve. It's really hard to say what, really, and every business is different. The Miniature Pony Club, the Miniature, it's not a club, what is it? It's a Miniature Pony Centre, thank you. In Dartmoor just had this weird kind of viral hit about 6 months ago where they let the ponies out into the field and they all just ran round and round and round, and it just did like 1 million views in 2 days. And I don't know, they tried to do it again next week and it just didn't work. So like, you know, I don't know, it's really weird. It's just one of those things though. But what happens though is that, you know, what they then did is they struck a nerve with that social media content, and then they used that and promoted it, and then they got a little bit more out of it. So you want to be kind of like backing your winners essentially. So that's kind of where tested social media comes in. And then in the middle of this section here, for people who are now on your site and familiar with your brand, you've got this ongoing conversation that you can use. You know, here's a new meal that we've just put onto the menu. Here's, you know, the local spa facilities, or whatever it is. Or here's another thing we did for Grey Gwen actually was that we did, rather than promote their particular place, we did a little trip down the estuary and we spoke to all the local things that businesses that you could do down there. So we started off in Dolgethlau and had a cup of tea in this little Kirky tea shop there. Then we followed some ponies where you could ride on the beach. We went across the bay and had an ice cream in this ice cream shop that had like 30 different ice creams. So what you're doing there is you're actually providing value for your customers by being a bit of a tour guide and showing the things that you can do in the local area. And if you were a really savvy business person, you'd go and make some deals with those people, and you know, sort of you're promoting their business a little bit, and they can, you know, you can scratch them back. So I think there's a lot of kind of sort of opportunity around different ways of using video in that way. And then as we move further down that funnel, you can do specific paid ads to your social audience. Once you've warmed them up, once you've got those, like Dan was talking about, the audiences, the retargeting audiences that you've built through social media, you can pay specifically to advertise to those people. So it's really just about thinking about where the content goes in that structure and what different types of content you need in order to help sort of bring people towards that. There's a few ideas for some content which I'll probably wrap up on. So you can do all sorts of different things. We talked about a few, we've seen a couple. You can look at some of the accommodation, you can look at restaurant dishes, you can go behind the scenes. That's really popular. People love to see people, they love to talk, you know, love to see the people who are running the show. You know, and actually if you can be a little bit raw and authentic and honest about stuff and actually say, look, we had a bit of a catastrophe today, you know, the fish didn't turn up or it's off or something like that, and we're having to do this and this and this. That kind of stuff is really, people like that, you know, that facade of trying to kind of, you know, have this big sort of, you know, wall of corporate sort of like, you know, stuff in there. It certainly doesn't work in tourism and hospitality, and it's dissolving pretty much everywhere now. And then, of course, interviews and testimonials are really effective as well. You can't bluff a video testimonial. You can make one up in text, but it's really difficult to do that. Video is very authentic for that. If you do anything like weddings, obviously showing those kind of events, do a deal with a local wedding videographer, get some of the media, you know, use that as something to promote your wedding services. And of course, food is really big as well. So if you're providing ethical food, and you know, that path, that journey from, you know, where it's come to where you're serving it is really important as well. And I think that's us. Any questions?
You were going to show us a page where the video fitted in to Facebook and other sites, and you didn't go back to it.
Oh, okay, yes, yeah, I did. Yeah, no, that's all right. That's it was literally it was just a page really just showing you all of the different social media sites that now have video. It's basically all of them. You know, a lot of these sites Instagram started off as a photo site, and then suddenly they're like, oh, we'll just put some video in there, you know. LinkedIn's launched video recently. It's very, LinkedIn video is really good at the moment. Most people think, oh, well, that's a B2B environment. Businesses are also clients, you know, they're also customers, they also go on holiday. We had 100,000 organic views on LinkedIn last year just from our own marketing videos. So I mean, one at the beginning of January, 5,000 views, you just pop it up and 5,000 views, you know, and it's like, that's free. That's how Facebook used to be about 5 years ago, before they just kind of went, right, now you have to pay for it. And that will probably happen with LinkedIn. You know, as with all of these things, these things shift, you know, there's a sort of golden years for it, and then it moves on and there's something new, and you've just got to be quick to kind of hop on board. And, you know, that's a quote from Zuckerberg, just kind of talking about the same thing. So.
That's a question we were talking about in office last week, which was YouTube versus Vimeo. Have you got any views or both? Or?
I've got a video on our YouTube channel that talks exactly about it. Well, we do quite. I've just published another article called 45 Resources for Video Marketing as well. So if you go onto our website, blinkback.co.uk, there's a bunch of stuff on the blog which talk about that. Vimeo is generally, there are differences. So Vimeo is more of a community. It's better for kind of high-end sort of creators to kind of show off what they're doing. YouTube obviously has the traffic. YouTube is a search engine, and if people are going to go and search for the name of your hotel on YouTube, which they're probably more likely to do than they will on Vimeo, then it's definitely worth having stuff on YouTube.
So we were using it to embed in a website, because the Vimeo embed is just so much
yes,
nicer.
it is, yeah.
Then, you know, it's not saying well, but then you need to be on YouTube as well, just for the social reach and the search reach.
Oh, yeah, just do both, I would think.
Yeah.
And then if you put it on the site, you're right. And then there's a third option called Wistia, which you have to pay a fair bit for. But Wistia is a video marketing tool, which is like Vimeo, but you can track all of the analytics in the background. You can see how long someone's watched your video. You can collect email addresses within the video window. You can set up all sorts of different tracking things. You can actually even, if you send it out in an email, you can send it out in a way that tracks the email address from the people who watch back. So, and then you can set up, you can connect it to your CRM or your, and set up leads, sort of, what do they call it? Sort of heat
capture.
Yeah, lead capture sort of things. No, I'll come back to it'll come back to me in a second. But you can track how warm someone is by how many. If they've watched 5 or 6 different videos, it will give them a different score, and then you know that's a really warm target. You know, warm lead. Wistia is the name of the platform. Yeah. Yeah. I think. Oh, and then okay. So the reason I'm filming this is because I can, and because it's, or it's just that, you know, now I can go and put that on my website, and it's more content. So it's like if you start thinking about where you can just put a camera in the corner of a room, or if someone's doing a talk, or if, you know, there's a lot of different ways you can literally just pop a camera in the corner of the room, generate some content. If you ever do a conference, then you've got lots of little bits that you can carve up and kind of distribute. So it's just about thinking about ways of generating content. Yeah. Okay.